Okay. Got it going. Alright. Okay, so I'm going to display for you guys how to do the the LED zigzag, okay? Getting the sense that what we're missing is it's actually a bit theoretical, conceptual, and that's fine. Okay. Okay, so the first thing I want us to think about, okay, is the fact that we've got 5 by 5, we've got a matrix of 5 by 5. We're going to go in, so those are my Y's, right? These are my X's, right? And so my X's are going to increase by 1 every time. And we want to go flip every time, right? Because the direction changes. So right here and then, it sets like the basic structure. So this is especially what I wanted to talk about in this quick video. We'll see how short it'll be. It's, you want to look at the salient features that you want to have in your code before you start coding. When someone starts coding, I've already mentioned it in class, a programmer doesn't start just like, oh, I want it to go to the end, and then they have bits go to the end, and then they go like, oh, that's right, I wanted it to now go backwards. Because it changes your structure. You have to look at it as those Russian dolls, okay? That's something I talk every year about. Every semester I mention it at least once. Okay, so very quickly, right? Because some of you might have never seen those. Okay, so this is what they look like, Russian dolls. That concept applies even in calculus. No joke. Last time I taught calculus was summer school and night school. I talked about that because functions tend to do that as well. So Russian dolls, simply what it is you got the big mama, which you can break open, and then there's a slightly smaller one, and then that nested one inside can be broken to show a new one, so on and so forth. We just don't see the lines. Oh, that's actually awesome. That's really good. Okay. So maybe let's type traditional, because they look quite pretty actually. The real old kind. Oh, that was it. Really? Okay. Okay, we just don't see. Oh, so see these here, babushka, right? That's how they're called. Right, so you see there's a line here, so you can crack it open, and then the second one shows up. Then crack that one, and then crack that one, and then crack that one, and then you get the idea. Okay. So what happens is you got to picture your code a bit the same way. You got structures, and some of it will be nested within, and you can't just like go in and start swimming. That's really not a good idea. Okay, so you got to picture it as structures. Okay, right. So this is what I wanted to show in this video. Okay, so I'm taking all the time to show it carefully. Okay. Your variables are basically, in a way, they're kind of, there's going to be imagery here, but your variables are a bit like drawing lines across a drawing, right? So your variables, you use them to separate things, if that can make sense. And obviously your loops as well, your general structure, but your variables will indicate what tends to change, right? So you'll see what I mean, okay? So the first thing I want to start with, is that obviously, right, so if we start here, our LEDs are going to go down and then up, and then down, and then up, and then down, and then bounce, and then they flip every time. Well, that's a great opportunity, a great case to use 1, and then we're going to multiply by -1, right? And so we could just call that polarity. right? And we'll add or minus to our position, right? And so, and every time we change line, we'll just change the polarity. So super easy to do, right? So we'll do that. We'll call that polarity, right? And we'll start by 1, right? So on start, set it to 1. Okay. What else do we got in our code in terms of what we want to do? Well, the next thing we want to do is we want to go up rows. Well, in this case, they're columns, right? So we want to go to start on column 0, 1, 2, 3, and this is our Y basically. But okay, so before actually we go to that, we need to declare an X and a Y. That's pretty clear. But these are going to be our these are just going to be our essentially our position in the Cartesian graph, right? So we're not going to use that variable as a name for the row. We're just going to call it, well, column, right, in our case, right? So as I said in class, use names that make sense for the variable, for what you're intending it to do, right? Like, you don't use a name that makes no sense, right? Unless you just like being confused, right? So we'll create a new one, copy paste, we'll call it row. Right, we need to set a new row, column, sorry, my apologies. Yes, I don't mind getting a bit confused, but anyway, it's not the point. Okay, so I'm just thinking live with you here, right? So polarity will take care of the going back and forth, so up and down, right? Polarity, right? This here, that'll take care of that really nicely. The columns, right? So we'll just increase by 1, and then starting, so when it bounces, so we'll want the row to change once it exhausted that, right? So already I'm thinking there's a structural aspect here. We're going to have to think carefully about that, right? I'm doing it live. I haven't tried it yet, right? So I think it's going to be useful for you guys to see how your teacher would do it, right? So you might actually learn, you know, the hope is you'll learn a bit from this here. And we'll deal with the speed at the end here, right? So let's just call a time variable, right? Copy paste, but we'll do that at the end because we know how to do that. That's easy. Time, actually, I'm not sure I need to show it because you guys know how to do that. So I'll let you guys do that. Okay. Okay. So how about we create a function, right? Functions are really useful. We'll have it draw a line. Can I type here? Yeah. Draw a line. Here we go. Beautiful. What will happen in draw a line? Well, we'll plot, wait, and then on plot, right? So LED, so plot, LED, on plot, basic, wait, I think it's in here, pause. Right? We might have to tweak that, but we'll leave it alone for now. Is my recording still working? Just checking. Okay, everything looks good. Everything looks good. Okay. Well, obviously call draw line, right? In forever. Right? Don't worry about the dot now. Right, we'll put that 500. Right, so now we should increase our That's y, right? So now what we'll do, we'll fit in our x for x. There you go, copy, paste. There you go. Right. Y. Paste y. Start at 0, 0. And then we're going to increase, so change. Right? This is y, right? Oh, and we'll need to do that 5 times, right? And change y by polarity. Okay. Polarity. Okay, so why do I know that this will work? Well, I need to put... Oh, there we go. Perfect. So we'll do that 5 times, sorry. Plunk all of that in here. Yeah, I just had an idea to make it really lazy, really easy. Since the whole drawing, like, I can automate this really quickly. I'll just repeat another 4 times. But at the end here, we'll change row. Okay, this is super straightforward. Column, sorry. I don't even need column. I just need... Well, I need a bucket to hold a condition, so that's for sure. So you know the idea of going this way and then backwards and then this way, we need to have a holder for that, a variable, right? To keep track of which case we're in. So we don't really have an option on this, so we need... So let's actually call it direction instead. So, direction column. Make sense? Columns. Okay. We're going to go 1, and then polarity 1. Okay. Change by polarity, and then we need to set. Okay, so this is where it gets a bit more complex here. Right, okay, so sorry, there's a couple of things going on here. Okay, so when we're done drawing all those LEDs, clack, 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 right? We need to flip it to now on the next column to go back up, right? So we're going to multiply, but it's got to be after the 4 have been drawn, right? Makes sense, right? So we're going to set polarity, and we'll do a tiny math. Multiply, right, to itself, multiplied by -1. Is everything okay? Okay, by -1. Oh, not polarity, direct column. I am tired. No, that was column. Whoa, hold on. I lost track. Sorry. Change Y by polarity. Polarity needs to change. So this is polarity. I was okay. Sorry. Right? So see, it's working already, right? But now it's just bouncing back and forth, right? It's ridiculous being tired like that. Okay. So polarity is working. Right now it's just not drawing the last one, but let's wait until I get it on the next row. So change Y, but here by direction columns. It should go in the next column right away. Okay. Whoa. Okay, hold on. I went a bit too fast here. Repeat 4 times. Oh, it's my X that changes here. Okay, so it's skipping the last ones. And then it should bounce right away. Oh. Okay. Problem here is that draws the first one, deletes it, increases by 1. So it does this the second one, so position 1 now, so the second one. So it does 1, waits, unplots it. Now it's doing 2. 2, unplot, done. 3, 3, 4. And now the problem is I'm doing it a 5th time. So the problem was, come on, bounce. It's still not bouncing. Yeah, so the problem here is that I was going on 5, which is outside of the range, right? So it's like here. So that's why I put 1 here outside. So it's done all of them, and then it's I put it after the multiplying of polarity because Well, because it's already changed, right? So I know I'm going to go backwards by 1, right? So it's because of this one, it's the structure, basically. That could be possibly improved, but I'm just trying to get it done here, just to give you a rough feel for it. Okay, so why is it not still venting? Oh, because I didn't change my direction. Of course it won't work. Okay, so now this is here that it gets different. Because now I need it to go. I'm just wondering if we should not change the direction column here. Hold on, I just want it to go a bit faster. Time, wait, time goes here. Copy, paste. That's time. Put that to 200. I just want it to be faster. Okay, nice. Oh, almost. So interesting. It's not quite working. We're getting there. Okay, stop. It's just distracting me. So it hits it, and then it already goes backwards by one. Is it this one? Change X direction. has already changed. What's my X? I'm just really tired right now. That looks to me like that should work. Just remove this minus. Where am I here? Oh. Hold on. What happens? So if I took that on, it disappears. That's when it's done. Nope, it's the direction. That is it. Man. Can't stop. Why is it going on the other way? Set direction colors. Okay, I'll just pause that. Give me one second. Okay, sorry. I was checking if I was recording. Okay, so I hadn't tried that code prior, and that bouncing idea has an interesting property. It took a couple of minutes here to realize that. So it's working now. There's a little hang. It does it twice, so I'm not super happy about that, but for now I'll leave it alone. So anyway, so the thing that happens in this code, so the same idea that for each column, okay, I'll stop that because it's distracting. Okay, so you draw each column, each dot on each column 5 times, but then because the change y by polarity is at the end of the sequence in that nested sequence, you actually bring it out of range when just before you exit, right? So you land on 5 here for y, but right, it's 0 to 4, right? Because it starts on 0. So there are 5 where you start on 0, so you finish on 4, right? But because this one, when it's exiting the 5 times, this is at 5, you need to change the polarity, right, to go back up now on the first shot, say, and then you need to change it once by the new polarity to bring it back to 4, if that makes sense, right? So this makes you bust by 1. Well, it turns out the column numbers for X has the same property, and it actually makes sense. So you do 5 times, but you change the column at the end by an extra one, right? So when you're done, you've done an extra one basically. And I tried putting it at 4. It's still funky. And so I did the same principle, but outside of the. So you see here the function. It's not very useful, really, actually, right? Because I just have the same amount. I'm not saving really any work, so I could just remove it, to be honest, right? Don't use a function if there's no point, if that makes sense, right? So I'll just remove it, and I'll drop all of this right on top here. There's no point, right? Don't use a function just because it's pretty, right? You use a function when you have the one spot I could is here, right? But for myself, I'm not rewriting it, right? So it's the same as, it's actually cleaner maybe this way. We could argue. Yeah, so this is all garbage here. Yeah, so the same property. So when you're done drawing your 5 columns, right? So this is a column. So you draw the 5 LEDs, you're done. You need to bring it back by 1, the Y, and then just before you do it again, you change the column, obviously. But turns out you need to do the same principle as we did here. Outside, you need to change it so that now it will go backwards. But because you're 1 extra, you need to change X as well, right? So if you notice, it's the same pattern. Yeah. So an interesting property. Interesting property. I just love those little challenges. I really do. So look at it. So it works, guys, quite nicely. I know why the hang is there, because, right, like, man, this is not as easy as I thought, that little challenge. There's more to it than meets the eyes. Yeah. So it's hanging there because it's restarting the cycle of drawing 5 LEDs. Right? So now we'd have to put a condition that when it's coming back, that it wouldn't draw the 5th one. So in position 4 on the Y. But it'll get kind of ugly. Is there an easy way to do that? So it would have to be here. So if I'll just leave it alone. That's an extra challenge for someone that really wants to push it. Yeah, it just gets me really thinking. So, alright. So, you see my code here, okay? You feel free to get inspiration from this, right? Just adapt it if you can to your needs, okay? So, there you go. So we'll say goodnight. All right, I'll post that.